Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. I'm Nerd Steve, and today I'm joined by GM Jeff Stormer. How are you doing?
I am doing super well. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. We're like kind of nerding out here because we're kind of local to each other and
Yeah,
like figuring out like all the different people that we know and how we're connected without actually knowing each other. So
tiny little circles. It is a we are in an industry of tiny little circles, and it's one of my favorite pastimes is going like, oh, you know these people, and you're in this city, so that means you've probably met these people, and it 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 always fills me with joy, like getting to have these little tiny
I
like
don't
nerd out conversations.
I don't know why it excites me so much when I do. It's just like because like we'll have people on the show from like all over the
Oh
world,
yeah.
and like you get someone who's on within a couple towns of you, or within like less than an hour, and you're like, oh my god, we're neighbors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
Feels like a stepbrothers moment. Did we
It
just
just
become best
we
friends?
we just became best friends. It
Yeah.
is very much that experience. The thing that
Mm.
I always think about is like, oh, we probably ate at the same restaurant at some point, and I'm like, that's
Yeah.
not that big a deal. Like that's not an exciting thing.
No,
But
no,
like when
yeah.
I think, but like when that thought first hits my head, I'm like, they probably know the same restaurants that I do, and I get like, I don't know why that thought brings me such profound joy, but it does, and I'm choosing to live in that joy.
I think part of it is because like in this niche in this industry, it's so international and you deal with people from
Yeah.
all over the place and you're like, oh, I'm never gonna get to see this person I like because they live in freaking Narnia or something, right? Like
Yeah.
the meme. But when you're like, oh, wait a minute, I could drive over and say hello to that person. Well, when the world's not on fire. But, in the normal times. But I digress a little bit. As usual, folks, there are links down in the description to go follow Jeff around the interwebs. And if you'd be so kind to kind of introduce yourself and tell people kind of what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Jeff Stormer. I am a podcaster, I'm a tabletop podcaster, game designer, and the unofficial official LARP designer of the Olive Garden restaurant. I am the host of Party of One, which is an actual play podcast focused on two-player role-playing experiences. I am also the co-host of All My Fantasy Children, which is a character creation, storytelling, and world-building podcast on the One Shot Network. I also do about a million other things. I design games. I wrote a LARP about the Olive Garden one time. I the words that I use is I am a consummately busy person because it is my favorite state of being is having a lot of stuff going on.
You're also a really snazzy dresser with that tie and that hair, man. I'm a little envious.
Thank you. Well, the hair is just an essential. I like my hair. I've worked hard on my hair and I intend to show it off. The tie is actually because it is a Friday and I have worn a tie and dress shirt and fancy clothes every Friday for the last too many years for me to feel comfortable saying it onto a video because I don't want people to realize A, how long I've been doing this completely nonsensical tradition, and B, how old I am. Those things are off limits, so suffice it to say, longer than you think.
And it also runs a little counterintuitive, right? Don't you go the other way on Friday?
See, I feel like I feel like I'm casual all the other 6 days of the week. So casual Friday is nothing to me. But also, it's the end of the week. It is the weekend. It is a time for celebration. So I feel like I want to dress to celebrate.
Nice. Days of the week no longer really mean that much to
Well,
me.
this is also true. The tradition has gotten a little strained in the last year and a half for some reason. I can't tell you why. Just
Yeah.
around last March, it just time started to blur together.
Well, I was gonna say even before that because like I do this like so I do RPG stuff full time,
Oh yeah.
and
So
and when you're
you've
a
lost
small
all
business
semblance of time.
and when you're a small business owner, like you never really stop working.
That's
Like I've
true.
heard
Yeah.
some people do, like they're much better at managing their time, and
I don't know what that's like. I
yeah,
can't
I don't
imagine.
either. I'll sit bolt right upright in bed at like midnight. My wife's like, "What are you doing and where are you going?" I'm like, There's something I need to just go
Yeah,
take
I
care of."
if I don't do this now, I'm not gonna sleep tonight. And so you go and you do it, and then you sleep like a baby.
Yeah,
But the people around you all look at you like, why are you working at 12:30 at night? And you're like, if I don't get this done,
yeah.
I'm gonna come back to this in a month and a half and go, why didn't I do this?
But on the plus side, in the middle of the afternoon, like I can go to the gym or do
Yeah.
nothing or whatever,
Oh yeah,
or,
100%.
watch the Bad Batch. So you run a podcast, Party of One, which is just you and
Yep.
another player, and you rotate out different players. How often do you do that?
We publish every week. Well, we've been shifting days around a lot lately because the summer got kind of weird. Every Monday we publish a new episode. We play a different one shot with a different guest and a different game every week. So every Monday is a new episode. Every Monday is a new game. Every Monday is a new guest, unless it's like a sequel or something like that. And it's a 16 to 90-minute episode. You get a self-contained story. You get to find out about a cool new game. You get to meet a cool new guest. Really, what more could be better?
And
what more could you ask for?
how long are those sessions?
We record usually. My go-to line for guests is, "We're in and out in 2 hours, or your pizza's free."
Yeah.
But we then edit it to like between an hour and a half. So like it is a pretty it. What you hear is not drastically different than what we record. So like between an hour and 2 hours. We've only once or twice gone past that 2 hour mark, and usually what we'll do if we go that long is we'll cut it into 2 episodes.
Nice. We were talking a little bit before we got started, and I kind of like mentioned to me playing one on one with another player for an RPG is like a super intimate experience.
It really is. I mean, when you stop and think about it, if you look at the conversations you have with one person for an extended period in like your day-to-day life, when there's not a camera on your face, it's scenarios like dates, it's job interviews, it is evaluations with your boss. Like they are all very like intimate experiences in very different ways. And so to do that while also saying we are going to like imagine together and tell a story together and like make a thing together, it is an unbelievably like intimate experience. And honestly, like that's one of my favorite things about the show is like I get to kind of like spend an intimate hour with like a cool person and like basically make a new friend every week. And like that is the best thing about making the show.
Or make a friend with the persona of another person.
Also fair. We do spend a good chunk of that time with microphones on, so you put on the character. But the nice thing about the show is like it also like the act of like making a thing makes it easy to kind of like it is easy to kind of share in that moment together. Like even if you are even through the remove of like we have microphones on, we have kind of the public personas on, like we're still sharing that really interesting experience. And like there is something really cool about that, and it is something that's really special to me. And it's one of the reasons why the show has been going as long as it has, is because I've always said I'm going to make this show right until it starts feeling like the magic is not there anymore, and the magic still feels like it's very much there.
I was thinking more from this perspective too of like because you're role playing, right? So
Yeah.
you're playing a character, not necessarily yourself, or maybe it depends on how you play these games. But from the GM's perspective, this is a lot more work. Like when you have a group, the time gets divided up amongst everybody at the table. But when it's just you and one other player, well, that's a 50-50, maybe even more, depending on how many NPCs you have to roll and where the story's going. And so it becomes a lot more, I want to say, labor intensive.
The spotlight is on you 100% of the time. Like there's always one person looking directly at you, which is not for everyone. Like not everyone can enjoy that. I have absolutely had guests beforehand be like, actually I don't know that I'm comfortable like doing this. I've had recordings stop where the person's like, actually I just this like I can't, like I'm not feeling this, and like that the energy is weird. And we've had times where we've kind of had to go back and re-record episodes because we talked afterwards and the guest and I both went, yeah, we weren't really expecting like what that was going to be, so let's go back and like record an episode where we know what to expect. But like the nice thing about making a podcast is that like I can do all of those things and no one has to hear them, because the magic of editing is either that episode either never sees the light of day or can be edited to a place where you don't have to run into that. But to your point, like it is a very challenging experience to kind of have that spotlight on you consistently, which is one of the reasons why the games that we run tend to run short. Because I feel like after an hour, you've pretty much been on for an hour, and that can kind of burn some people out. So we run short. We keep the story self-contained. We reach a point where we go like, even like in a game, we go like, let's end. We're ending the story. What is the ending of this particular story look like? And a lot of times it is we aim to make the experience as easy as possible because we know that we're asking a lot when a guest sits down in front of us.
So you said we talked about it before, beforehand,
Mhm.
before we went live, that you've been doing this 6 years,
6 years in October.
once a week, 6 years. That's a lot of one-on-one sessions.
It's what we do. It's what we love, and I'm gonna keep doing it for as long as as long as people keep showing up. I will keep doing it.
And what are some of the games you're playing?
Too many to count. We really focus on like games that are specifically designed for two players. Like we've really found a lot of joy and traction and like enthusiasm in playing like new cool indie games that are designed for two players. That like one of the things that's nice about the show is like we get to spotlight a lot of games that might not get spotlighted in other places because the story's a little more intimate. It's a little bit less you meet in a tavern, and like a little bit less likely that like a random podcaster stream is going to pick it up. And we've gotten to really spotlight cool games and tell really interesting stories and like really kind of explore like what's happening in the sort of like indie design space. And like we've done some really cool and amazing things. And my go-to marketing line is that at this point we've got a pretty much an episode for just about any media preference, any genre passion, any taste as far as emotional content. Like we can pretty much find an episode that is close to, if not exactly what you're looking for, if you come to me and say I'm looking for an episode about X.
What are some of the games you have coming up?
I can tell you that in exactly 10 seconds because I keep a spreadsheet. Because I am some would say over prepared at all times, but I would say exactly prepared enough. We just played a game called Space Between Stars, which was a GM-less like sci-fi adventure game, sort of inspired by Star Wars and The Expanse. That was really cool. We've got a game. So we're playing Volley Boys. I'm supposed to sit down for that recording. I think next week, I believe next Thursday or possibly the Thursday. No, next Friday. Which is a GM-less game about a team of volleyball players inspired by sports anime like Haikyuu. And I am dying with excitement over it. It is one of the games I've most been looking forward to playing, and I'm really excited to get to play out my sports anime dreams.
It's funny. My son has a couple like sports animes he watches, and I just don't get it, right? And I'm like, "What are you watching?" And he's like, "It's this anime about volleyball." Because I think there's a volleyball one and a basketball one.
That Haikyuu is the volleyball one, and it's close to my it's a staple in our household.
He's like, the best character development is in this show, and I'm like, you don't even really like sports that much in real life. I mean,
you're saying things that all of them I feel like you're saying them about. I'm feeling very called out right now. Yeah. But yeah, I get it. I understand all of these things. But yeah, we've got Volley Boys coming up. We've got a game called Pull Me From the Earth, which is dropping in a couple weeks, which is about the relationship. It is a horror romance game about bog bodies, which are like bodies that have been petrified in bog water, and like the history of a person that died in a bog and became petrified, and like like them coming back to life, and like their relationship with like a person walking through the bog at that moment. And like it is the game ruled. That game was one of my favorite recordings we've done in months and ages, and I'm really excited to like get to release that. And one of the nice things about the show is like we've played a lot of our games with the designer of said game, and that's become one of my favorite experiences, is getting to. There's nothing quite like getting to sit down with a person that made a game and play that game with them and watch their face as you make as you like tell the story that that game is supposed to tell. Like to me, there is nothing like that experience, and it makes me so full. It brings me nothing but joy to get to do that.
So there's a couple of questions I'm gonna grab real quick from the chat. James, which we were talking about you before we went live. What's one RPG Jeff wish more people were playing and talking about?
Okay, so I'm not going to go with the easy answer, which is a Jeff Stormer game. That is not what we're gonna do here today. I could do that, but I'm not going to. This is gonna require. Let me go through my episode list. If you've got another question for me while I scroll episodes to see
Sure. Good times, bad times wants to know, do you have to be a famous YouTuber to be part of this? Oh, and I'll just add, like, what kind of people do you usually have on? You mentioned the designers, for instance.
Game designers, and so we have a little bit of everybody. We've had game designers, we've had professional wrestlers, we've had podcasters, we have had just people that are my friends. We really like, I always say my go-to line is, I'm in this to make friends, I'm not in it to win. And so the secret answer is the best way to be on the show is to be an interesting person that I want to be my friend.
Yeah.
And we'll figure something out. But we've had comedians, we've had podcasters, we've had professional wrestlers, we've had
Oh wait, did you make Mission Accomplished?
I did make Mission Accomplished.
So did James? I don't know if James ran it or somebody else ran, and James played in it. I think James ran it, but we played a game of that at PAX Unplugged, and that was a lot of fun.
I love Mission Accomplished. We could talk an hour about Mission Accomplished because it is extraordinarily close to my heart. Wait, there's a salute in the title, and sometimes I forget it, but it's really important that it's Mission Accomplished. Like, it is important that the salute is. I haven't figured out how to put that into text yet, so some people lose the nuance that there's a salute in the title.
Oh, so you need to You need to. Oh, can you do a I don't know, like a text emoji guy in the title?
That's maybe what that's actually probably the best way to do it. I've had to put a lot of thought into it. To answer James Intercasso's question, the game that I really think that people should check out that I think is actually incredible is Galactic by Riley Rethal. It is a game about, it is a hack of, or it is a belonging outside belonging game. So it is inspired a lot by Wander Home, and it is specifically Star Wars belonging outside belonging, and it is one of the most fun. Like, it is a game that I've just sat and thought about a lot after playing it, and like I have a soft spot for Star Wars. It is a thing that is close to my heart, and that is a game that I adore. And then the other game that nope, that's the only one that I got. That's the one that I'm throwing out there. There's so many that I could throw out that are like cool, interesting, weird games, but I'm gonna limit myself. I am also gonna say, I'm sorry, did you say Street Magic by Caro Asursian, which is a game where you like neighborhood by neighborhood make a city together, and it's like, it's a cool world building game. It is, and like it is just it is one of the better like world building games that I've ever played, and it just has like a cool energy, and it's it is the sign of what I think of as a great game is a game that I think about after I play it, and I think about the cities that we created in Street Magic so often that like I recommend it to everybody at all times.
Have you ever like taken a game like that and used any of those cities on like a different game?
Oh yeah, I mean, I am a humongous proponent of like multi-system jumping between systems for like an ongoing story is like one of the coolest things in the world to me, and it is a thing that I want to like, it is a thing that I'm always thinking about. And like, I read a lot of games. Like, it is a thing that I read a lot of tabletop role-playing games, as you can imagine. And like, one of the things I am always thinking about is the act of like, oh, this is so cool, and if you put it with this other game, you could tell this story that connects together in these ways. And so like the idea of using street magic to build a world that you play in a different game is something that like I have done, and it's something that I love doing. It's something that we've done. We did it on Fantasy Children. We did it on AMFC, where we so the format of AMFC is we take a listener prompt and then we play a game. We build out a piece of this world, and every episode is us building another section of our world, which has also been going on for a very long time. But we used street magic in an episode of that, and we built out a city, and it's really cool. It's just a really cool game, and it does really cool things, and it has such cool possibilities for just for storytelling that like I'm obsessed. I'm always obsessed with it. Oh, and I have one. Now you've got me recommending games. This is on you. All of this that happens is on you.
It's on James actually, but you know.
And Tricasso, this is your fault.
It usually is. Blame James.
I always blame James. The third game, and this is a quick recommendation, is Kubrick, a post adaptation game by Ben Roswell. It is. So the premise is like you take that as a table, you take a piece of media that you have all like you all enjoy. Like you pick a story, a movie, a book, and the goal of the game is that you are going to adapt it into another format. And like and so at a table you talk beat by beat through your adaptation of whatever thing you're adapting. And in the way that Stanley Kubrick famously like threw out large chunks of everything that he was adapting or changed the tone of things 100%, turned the story of Doctor Strangelove into a comedy from like a tense sort of like political horror novel. It is about like you telling a way of like, basically it is a game that facilitates the discussion of like, how would you make this movie differently? And as somebody that thinks about that question constantly with almost everything that I watch, it is one of my favorite games that I've ever read. It is a game that I'm obsessed with, and it is a game that I'm constantly looking for new groups of people to play it with, and constantly looking at things and going, I want to Kubrick this. This is a thing that I want to play Kubrick with. And I was just thinking today about like, God, I really want to play Kubrick. It's really good.
So kind of I want to like circle back to to the other question. If someone was like, oh, this seems really cool, how can I appear on your podcast and be in one of your one-on-one games? Is there a method for that?
We have an email, party of one podcast at Gmail is always available. I will say, like, at the moment we are drowning in like we have more people than we could possibly accommodate. But that said, it's not always worth an email just so that I know to have you on my radar. But pretty much just ask. That's really like the reality of all of the illusion of the show that we put together is that it's two people in our bedroom. It is me and it is Jen Frank, producer of the show. And so like, it's pretty much just shoot me an email and we'll figure something out. It might take a while. It might take 6 months, but we'll figure something out.
Cool. So there, you can check out there if that's something you're interested in. So, you know, you run the podcast where you're running a one-on-one session of a different RPG all the time, which means you actually have to learn a lot of different RPGs.
Yep.
You do an eggnog podcast.
Talking Nog, the world's foremost authority on eggnog and eggnog related matters. I say Party of One is my baby, but yeah. Talking Nog is my masterpiece. Talking Nog is the crowning achievement of all of the things that I've created. Talking Nog is a once or twice a year podcast, if I remember to record it in July, which I've done exactly once, where I, talk about eggnog. I answer listener questions, people send me their photos of them drinking eggnog, and I describe them to a podcast audience. It's magical. It is a magical experience.
So do you try and do like a Christmas episode and a July Christmas in July episode?
We always do Christmas. I have, for the last maybe 4 years, almost the entire run of the podcast, have been threatening to do a Christmas in July episode, and I have forgotten every single year until this year when I actually pledged to do it. and then it almost didn't happen because I was rushing so last minute to get it put together. So I might not do it again. We'll find out. Talk to me next July to see if another July episode happens. But I can guarantee you that come December, I will be on camera and on microphone talking about eggnog and enjoying the world of the eggnog experience.
Yeah, one of our family friends, they throw a Christmas in July party every year and have like a band, and Santa Claus shows up, and
Sounds incredible.
yeah,
Jealous.
it's totally a thing. So you 3 podcasts. There's another one.
Yes, All My Fantasy Children, which is our character creation podcast on the One Shot Network.
So okay, so that's not as bad. So one of them is once a year. That's
one
not
of them is
deal.
once a year. Yeah, one of them is once a year, and it is at a time when I'm not really doing anything else.
Yeah. So and then you have a regular job, and you also make games.
I do. I am a busy. I this is my hobby, and I spend a lot of time celebrating my hobby, especially in a world where I can't do things like go outside.
So that sounds like that's a lot of stuff on anyone's plate to keep you busy. What games have you made?
We talked about Mission Accomplished. The most recent game that I created is Anyone Can Wear the Mask, which is a 3-player superhero role-playing game about a hero, a villain, and the city that they share. And then I've created a bunch of smaller games. My favorite smaller game that I've created is a game called Jonathan Frakes Demands Your Attention and You Must Not Give It to Him. It is a game where it is a 2-player game that is designed to be played while you are doing chores. One player plays a person that is living in a house that has been haunted by a ghost that for some reason has taken the form of beloved character actor Jonathan Frakes from Star Trek. And the other player is a ghost that is trying to steal that person's soul out from their body. And the only way they can do this is by asking you strange questions. And if you, as the person doing chores, react to that person's questions, your soul is stolen. So it is basically a game that facilitates. I have to do dishes, and somebody stands next to me going, "Who's the tallest man you ever met? Mm-hmm. Would you wear that? Would you put this trophy on your wall? You ever go to a theme restaurant? How much do you tip? Do you think computers have a mind of their own?" And it was specifically a game that I wrote after all of the Jonathan Frakes Beyond Belief videos had come out, and I was like, I got to do this. And this is a thing that has to exist, and thus it exists.
So tell us about Mission Accomplished.
Mission Accomplished is a game that it means a lot to me. It is a game that means a lot to me. Mission Accomplished is a game for 4 to 10 players about super spies and office meetings. It is a role-playing game of super spies and office meetings where the players play a team of elite secret agents. They're the best in the world who have just saved the world. They have blown up the doomsday device. They have killed the bad guys, and they've come back in one piece. And now comes for the really hard part of the job, which is sitting down with management or with HR for like a debriefing session to figure out who's got the credit for what went right, who's getting the blame for what went wrong, who is getting that corner office promotion with floor-to-ceiling windows and the company credit card, and who is getting, shot in the head or sent to Siberia or, any number of other things that could happen. Normal office things.
Now, I played it once, but it was a couple of years ago. And I might have been the one that get off. I don't remember, but we had to shut down a space station.
Oh, that's one of my favorite the moon laser is close to my heart.
And I was the driver.
Love it.
and I think I got blamed for everything.
I love it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. You know what stands out the most to me about that game is that it's a great like party game for people that don't play role-playing games.
That was what I was going for. Like as I was writing
mission accomplished. So.
We got it. There it is in the title. As I was writing it, the more I wrote it, the more I sat with it, the more I was like, this is a game. This is a party game for a whole crowd. Like this is for an entire room of people. This is for an entire room of people to just sit around and complain about their jobs for an hour. And that is what we achieved with the game. It is what I am proud of with the game, is that it gives people an excuse to just like roll their eyes at the worst things about their day job. And given that I wrote it while suffering through the worst period of like a toxic job that I'd ever been in, it brings me a lot of joy that it can bring people that same kind of joy in acknowledging our mutual suffering in the world that we call capitalism.
Sounds like a cathartic process.
It is. I can't tell you how many times I wrote this game over the course of about 2 years. Like, it was a long-term project that was made up of a lot of, I would sit through a meeting that like made me so angry that I wanted to cry. I would walk back to my desk, I would write out this game, and I would laugh until I felt better. And I can't tell you how many times I did that. And then the next day had to go look at my notes and go, oh, I can't include. No, that's just straight up a thing that someone said to me to meet it. I can't include those. Like, that's going to get me in trouble. And like, I, when we finally like the finished product, there's enough in there that I've had former coworkers read it and go, oh, wow, this is what, oh, you really had a problem with that, didn't you? And I'm like, yes, I did have a problem with that.
How long did you work that job? 2 years?
9 years. 9 years. I was at that job for so much longer than I needed to be. And that's probably, and one of the reasons that why I was there for 2 years being miserable is because I was there for 7 years before that. It was one of those cases where like I loved the job and then I liked it a little less and a little less. And by the time
by the time the end came around, you were passive aggressively writing an RPG about the job.
I hadn't just written it. I had taken it to Kickstarter and it had funded. The story around Mission Accomplished is that it funded on Kickstarter the day I got laid off. I didn't even quit.
Oh,
they let me go. It funded on Kickstarter the day that I got let go. I had taken 2 vacation days, the Monday and the Tuesday. We launched Tuesday morning. I took the Monday off prior to like finish getting the Kickstarter ready. And then I took Kickstarter launch day off because I was just going to stare at a green bar all day. We got like 80% of the way funded day 1. Day 2, I get an email at the end of the day sent to my personal email from work that's like, hey, you have to come in early today. It is really important that you come in an hour and a half early today. And I was like, oh, I'm getting laid off. Great. So I drove in the next day and I was like, you know what? I'm getting let go. This is it. Like, things have been bad for long enough that like, yeah. And I remember they made the announcement and I walked back to my desk and I just sat there and I didn't work. And I was like waiting for this phone to ring. And finally, like, I turn around and the phone rings and I gathered up my stuff. I drove home and I sat there and I watched the Kickstarter cross the finish line. It was the most cathartic thing in the world. Like, you cannot find a more emotional combination, like a more of a roller coaster than I have just lost my job, but like this game that like is a symbol of like what I want to be doing in the world has just found enough of an audience that it is funded. Talk about a roller coaster. Talk about an emotional roller coaster unfolding in front of me.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Kickstarter now, so like that's not a bad severance.
No, I also got a great severance for the record. Like,
oh, that's nice. Like, I mean, there's so many jobs where you don't.
Oh yeah, no, I like, as much as I hate that they let me go and that I didn't get to walk out on my own terms, I do recognize that they gave me a nice severance, but I also recognize that they made me hate myself for 2 years. So like, you know, it all balances out in the long scheme of things. But I remember, yeah, there is never going to be a better example, like a better sign in the world of things are going to be okay than sitting there on the day you've been let go of a job that you truly hated, watching your Kickstarter fund.
Yeah, that's weird and cool. So.
Like, literally, I watched that happen. It was like, all right, I'm gonna be okay. What is it? Anyone can wear the mask? Anyone can wear the mask is the new game. That's the superhero game that I published back in December, and we're about to publish the ultimate edition of the game probably the end of September.
Are you going to do that on Kickstarter, or are you just releasing
No,
it?
we raised enough money on it. We sold it on Itch, and we raised enough money on Itch that we were able to fund all of our interior art. We were able to fund an audio book of the game. So we're just gonna like release it. Anywhere we've released the game, I'm just gonna update the files and email the people that bought the game already and be like, hey, you have a cooler thing now. And then people that buy the game tomorrow can give me an extra $10 because there's a bunch of extra stuff in here and it took time to make.
Nice. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so that's a 3-person. So someone plays the villain, someone plays the hero, and someone plays the city.
That is correct. It is a hero, a villain, and a city. Somebody plays the. So the way the game works is one player plays the city, and that is every ordinary person in place in the city. So that player like introduces a location and says, "Hey, this is our neighborhood diner. Here's the history of that diner. Here's what this diner looks like." And then the villain comes in and says, "And here's a giant rhinoceros villain that is going to come trample this diner unless the hero does something to stop it." And then the hero comes in and describes how they stop the thing. And the game is really about how all three of these pieces are important to one another. And like, it is about the kind of issue by issue. This game is Anyone Can Wear the Mask is my 10 years late college thesis because so fun fact, I have a degree in comic books. Like my English degree is focused in comic books. It's what I went to school for.
How does that even happen? And
sheer luck is the thing. I happened to go to Ohio State because they were the one school that accepted my application. I went to Ohio State, and by happenstance, they had one of the only comic book, like they have the only comic book research library in the world. The Billy Ireland Comic Book Research Library was on campus, and they have one of the best English programs in the country. And they have a program, like they had enough stuff, they had enough classes and resources and like academic stuff that I could build an English degree, like an English degree with a concentration in comic books. And as somebody that learned to read on comics, it was the only thing that made sense. And so Anyone Can Wear the Mask is the result of me going to school for comics and wanting to do something that kind of reflected how I feel about superheroes for the last 10 years. And so this is my story game about why superheroes are important and why superheroes as a concept are relevant and keep becoming, like they keep finding popularity, and like why they mean so much to me. It is the game that encapsulates all of those things in a way that my college thesis, I never got to write a college thesis, so this is what I did instead.
so, what does one do with a college degree focused on comic books?
I write marketing materials. Well, I mean, and honestly, like it's the same thing you do with any English degree, which is like write stuff. But so the nice thing is that yeah, I work in marketing now, and I genuinely love working in marketing. It is a thing that I remember being an 18-year-old. I remember being a whiny 18-year-old self-important jerk in the way that all of us are self-important jerks when we're 18. And being like, people who work in marketing are gross. Artists don't do that. I'm an artist. And here I am in my 30s going, wait, I love working. Marketing is great. I actually love doing this. And I wish that I gotten to like embrace that earlier. And it's a messy, complicated feeling, but like I work as a marketing writer for a corporate office that is neither here nor there, but I am a marketing writer by day and designer of cool story games by night.
Ugh, ad copy, ick.
Yeah, I love writing ad copy. I'm not gonna lie.
I appreciate ad copy. I just hate when I have to write it because I'm terrible at it.
I love writing it. I love reading it. It's just I like. The thing is for me, like my view on marketing is that it is just a more professional way of being excited about a thing, and being excited about stuff is my favorite way to be at all times forever. So if I can just like if I can write things that make people excited about a thing, like that's pretty cool. That is a cool thing for me to do.
How did you start a podcast about eggnog?
there's a story here.
I assume there would be.
The story there is so the story about the Eggnog podcast is obviously I make other podcasts, and I was talking to some people at the old office job, and Christmas time had come around, the holiday season had come around, and jokes aside, like bits on eggnog aside, I adore eggnog. It is one of my favorite pieces of the season. It is a thing that I truly genuinely love. And I got to some friends of mine had like asked about, we were talking about it and just having a conversation about it. And one of my friends had said to me as a joke, "So when are you going to start a podcast about eggnog?" And I said, "That's a silly joke. Ha ha ha. Wait, no." And I started working on, and like by the end of business hours that day, because I was already kind of at the point where I was doing this stuff on business hours, and I can say that now because they laid me off. I had already built like a Twitter account and had already started like, I had already made an email. I had made a Twitter account. I had like made a web presence for this podcast. And I just sat there and looked at it for a while and went.
And what is the Eggnog podcast called again?
Talking Nog. You can find that. You can find that at twitter.com/talkingnogcast, because I'm not 100% sure if the website works yet.
Haven't you been doing it for like 6 years?
We've been doing it for, I think we started in 2017. But listen, a strong view of the show has been that I refuse to do work to make this podcast. And so we just created a website this morning, because like we switched hosts, because for a while I just put it on SoundCloud because SoundCloud was letting me do it for free, but then I used all of my storage on SoundCloud and had to like switch providers.
Yeah.
So I had to make a web. So like now that I've switched providers, I can make a website for it. And like, I have to make sure that website works before I start telling people to go to there. And also I might buy a URL for it. Like I might buy a domain for it just so I have it. Unfortunately, eggnog.com was not available, which is very upsetting to me personally. This is a development that I have found today that has broken my heart, is that I can't own eggnog.com.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hardest thing of starting anything, right? Is like finding the name and then finding the name that's available.
That's the challenge, finding the name that's available. Though I did find a URL that I do want to direct people to, because I found it. Well, no, I should say the correct, like I should acknowledge this as the objective, fact-based achievement that it is. The URL bestrpgpodcast.com. If you go to bestrpg.com, you'll find what is, objectively speaking, the best RPG podcast. Because it's in the URL, and URLs can't lie to you.
No, not at all. It's in the URL.
We found that one was available last weekend and went, well, I'm buying this.
Oh my God.
I was having a conversation with friends, and we were having a conversation, and we were talking about something or other. One of the things where, like, if you type in bestprofession.com, like whatever the it was, I think, wedding efficient. I think it was bestweddingefficient.com. Like, there's a person that owns that URL that like gets bookings because they own that.
Yeah.
So if a friend of mine was like, "So Jeff, why don't you just get bestrpgpodcast.com and then nobody can question it?" And I was like, there's no way that that's available. Oh my God, it's available. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
It's $12 a year. And then I sat there and they watched me do this. They watched me take my phone and go, "Everybody, hold on. Let me go to domains.google. Let me just crack this and buy that, put in cards, done. Everybody go to this website." And they all went there and they're like, "All right, good. Justice has been righted in the world."
Oh my God. That is funny.
It is the funniest thing in the world to me. It's owning the URL bestrpgpodcast.com.
So like the reason why we have Nerdarchy is because we like went through like every iteration of geek and nerd we could think of before we found one where we could actually get the domain name for it. And which I'm happy, Nerdarchy just works for us. But but it wasn't our first choice, and we went through a lot of them before settling on that. But that's funny. Now you got me wanting to look at different URLs and just grab them just because.
I just Googled as we were talking. I just realized I made a gambit, and unfortunately it didn't pay off. But you know, it's important to look. Bestpodcast.com is not available. There does not seem to be a website there, but somebody is sitting on that URL, and I'm very upset about it.
They saw you coming.
They saw me coming. I wanted that URL, and it's not available, and I'm furious. Greatpodcast.com is available, but I feel like I don't want to just be a great podcast. I don't want the URL that says I'm great. I want the URL that says I'm the best. It's important to me.
That's funny. And also, that's a fairly decent marketing tactic. Like, to spend $12 on marketing for the year for something for random Google searches, and just having the URL is going to push it up in search. So
that's what I'm saying. You know what?
You're a genius, Jeff.
Feeling good. I'm feeling good about it. Sadly, so I'm now just Googling other URLs. Feel free to move on with the interview. Otherwise I'm gonna be distracted just seeing what else I can register. I don't need to be doing this. There are other things I should be doing with my day. Please, let's talk about something else, or else I'm gonna be in this space forever.
Forever. There's no way around it.
There's no way. Once I've already looked at like 4 other URLs in the last 5 minutes. I need to move on, or else my brain is just, or else I'm shutting down. All operations are shutting down after, unless we kickstart it right now.
That's funny. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I just bought a URL myself, so
I'm so happy about this. I'm so happy that you've done this. I want more of us buying weird URLs. I don't feel like we do enough of it. I'm excited. I'm excited to know. I'm excited. This is
yeah. That's funny. Yeah, I totally just bought Best D&D YouTube channel.
Yes. And now what you've got to do is, whenever you're advertising, just be like, we're bestdndyoutubechannel.com. That's where you can find us. And then like, then people just know that like that is such a flex. That is such a flex that you can do. Like, be like, yeah, hi, I'm Jeff Stormer. You can find my podcast at bestrpgpodcast.com.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do about it? You gonna question it? It's in the URL.
It's in the URL.
Checkmate.
That's funny. So how did you get into RPGs?
Oh, earliest childhood memories. I was 8 years old. I was living in rural Oklahoma, and my brothers and I, we were fans of we were big video game players. We love video games, and we had found a book at a yard sale for a game called Middle Earth Role Playing, where somebody was giving this away at a yard sale. I can't imagine why. Somebody was giving this away at a yard sale. We picked it up knowing what a role-playing game was, at least what we thought a role-playing game was, because we had been playing video games. So like, you know, to somebody playing Nintendo Entertainment System, like Dragon Warrior, Dragon Quest is a role-playing game. So like, as an 8-year-old, I saw that and went, that's a thing that's like the thing that I play on the TV that I like. This has to be like a guidebook or something, or like some other video game thing. It was not. It was a tabletop game that as an 8-year-old I did not understand, and as a mid-30s year old, I still don't have a great handle on Middle Earth role playing. But it kind of burrowed in my head, and it kind of got stuck, and here I am 20 some odd years later.
happens. I remember like making characters for that game, and I don't know. We might have played one session, but I know like it had a critical hit chart, and I just remember like one of the things was like you take an arrow through the ear, removes all earwax, and instantly you die or instantly kills you.
Yep. So there is a fumble result. There is a fumble result that if you roll a 1, right? If you roll a 1 on your D100 roll, you roll on the fumble table. And you could just like sheer random luck chance could just roll it and end up with you swallow your tongue and die. I remember being 8 years old and reading a table that I did not know what you used this table for. And on it says, you swallow your tongue and die. And going, what the hell is this? What? I don't, I guess this is my hobby now. I guess this is where I spend the rest of my life. It was a weird game that, as an 8-year-old was not one that I was emotionally prepared for. And I love it for that exact reason.
Yeah. Like I said, I mean, and like the early days of, we would like someone would show up with a different RPG every week.
Mm-hmm.
And like we might play it or might not play it, but at best it was like one session and that was it, and then we'd move on to something else. And now it's hard to get people to play anything but D&D. So,
yeah, that's the challenge.
What do you have, a go-to RPG or a regular campaign that you're running?
Not at the moment. Not at the moment. We did for a while. We had an off mic game for a while that we had played through an entire Shadow of the Demon Lord game, and then we were playing through Monster of the Week, and I was GMing that, and I fell off running that. Intricasso, if you're in the chat still, that's on me. I should probably follow up with you at some point, but like, you know, it's been a hell of a year. So like, you know, but my go-to game, I don't have a ton of opportunities to like play off mic things. Mainly that's my mainly it's convention things, but my convention game of choice is Worldwide Wrestling, because it is a game that I can sit down with. I can blast through that game with like 10 people, half of whom have never watched wrestling, half of whom love it with all of their hearts, and I can make one of the best games you've ever played. That is a boast, but it is also not a boast. That is a promise. That is a promise that comes with being the champion. That is a promise that comes with being the best in the world.
I love it. The tiniest wrestling belt.
It is a tiny little belt, and it makes me not filled with nothing but joy. But Worldwide Wrestling is my go-to. Like, that is a game that I can pick up and run with anybody at any time because I love it with all of my heart. But that is my go-to, not for being recorded game, because wrestling is a love language of mine, and so being able to share that will always make me extremely happy.
Interesting. I was very vested in wrestling until like about my tweens or so, and then it kind of fell off for me. Saturdays were a terrible day in my household for my younger brothers.
I imagine,
because
as for many of us,
you had wrestling and you had kung fu theater.
Yep.
And like,
and then you had World Martial Arts, and then you had WMAC Masters, which was both of those at the same time.
And like, this is pre like the disclaimer.
Mm-hmm.
So we totally tried that stuff at home.
Oh yeah, I mean, honestly, like the disclaimer has the disclaimer has not stopped anyone in the history of professional wrestling. Like, wrestling would not exist. Modern wrestling would not exist had that disclaimer worked, because modern wrestling, like wrestling as an art form, carries on because somebody watched a wrestling match once and said, I'm going to do this in my backyard on a trampoline.
Yeah.
And like, the ones that didn't get so hurt that they couldn't continue are the ones that we're watching on TV today.
That sounds valid. I just remember the one Saturday, my middle brother, I'm like, hey, come here. And I picked him up and pile drived him.
Oh, that's not good. No, you shouldn't do that. That's
Don't
bad.
do that. Do not do that.
Don't do that. That's look, I know I was just praising backyard wrestling and doing it at home. There are certain things that you honestly shouldn't do. There are certain things that wrestlers don't really do anymore. And but I understand why perhaps it was best for you not to do this at home.
Yeah. He jumped up.
Okay, that's all that matters.
He jumped up and grabbed his ass and his head at the same time. And then I was like, oh my God, he's going to wake up my parents and they're going to murder me.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And if I'm being 100% honest, probably justified.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like, it's amazing that my brother survived his childhood.
God, I love wrestling.
These kids today, they don't know how easy they've got it. It was brutal.
Well, see, I'd say you have it easy because that's not on YouTube.
That's true.
Nowadays, if you're doing dumb wrestling things with your friends, it's all on YouTube and it's all there forever.
Yeah. There would have been a video recording of that somewhere. Like at the time, my youngest toddler brother would have been recording it with their iPhone.
Exactly. So, that's what I'm saying. I think maybe you had it easy because that footage, you're not getting contacted by professional wrestling promoters going, let's make some money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that part might be good.
Maybe.
I don't know. Now I'm really fat and out of shape, so not so good. But yeah, like I couldn't imagine like growing up nowadays, like when I grew up, like we didn't have to worry about everything being recorded. And also too, like back then you would have been dumb enough to record yourself doing dumb stuff and kind of like outing yourself. It's not even like you'd have to worry about like the candid camera stuff. Just being dumb kids and like, oh, this seems like a good idea. And it's never a good idea. Whatever it is.
It's never a good idea, but you're going to do it anyway. So I only ask that you be safe.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like kids nowadays have more sense than we did. I think it's because they have more options of things to do.
So, and less of them are absolutely terrible ideas.
Yeah. Like our options were like go outside and look, what do you have outside? I don't know, sticks and rocks. What are you gonna do with that? Yeah. Probably put out your friend's eye. Yeah. So, going back to the podcasting, like who's been one of your like favorite
after that a while that is ostensibly the thing that we're here to talk about now that I stop and think about it and I've stopped dragging us down rabbit holes about
who is the guest you're most excited to have on?
Oh gosh, I love all of our guests equally. I do get a particular giddy joy, perhaps predictably, given what we've just talked about for the last 10 minutes. I do get a particular giddy joy whenever I get to sit down with a wrestler.
Yeah.
The wrestlers that I've recorded with have all been delights. They have all been, there's been a kind of common experience across all of them where, they're all giant geeks and dweebs. Is the secret about professional wrestling is that it's an art form for geeks and dweebs. And
well, you kind of have to be like, who does that and could possibly take themselves serious?
That's what I mean. So like that's one of the joyful things is kind of like watching you get to sit down with a person that like their job is to be tough, right? Like I cannot take a chair to the back. I can't take a light tube to the head. If you try to shoot a staple into my head with a staple gun, I'm just going to give up and say, I don't know what you want, but I'm not willing to do this. So like I get to sit down with people. I've gotten to sit down with people whose like job is to do that and to be tough and to do that and to make it look cool. And also just be like, and now you get to be just an unrepentantly giddy, dorky dweeb, and we get to sit down together and like play imagination elf games together. And like watching cool wrestlers do the mental math of like, oh, I'm gonna get to play an elf. Like I get to do a really goofy, silly, like watching them like do the math and be like, okay, yeah, all right. And then watching them get the most into it is like it's it makes me very
I
happy.
think there's a stream or a podcast where it's I think it's wrestlers playing the wrestling.
I hope so. That I want that to exist if it doesn't.
Someone I know someone always mentions it in the chat, and I don't think they're here today, but they is as one of their favorites, and that's why it's like sticking in my head. I don't know for certain that they play the wrestling game.
Oh, there is Up Down Down that has WWE wrestlers playing Dungeons and Dragons, and that one is very good.
Yeah, and it's funny. I mean, all the people that now come out as playing tabletop RPGs. Which decade did you grow up playing in?
I grew up in the 2000s to the 2010s.
Okay, that's not bad.
No. Well, I've been playing since the mid 90s.
Yeah.
But when I was old enough to kind of know what I was doing would be the 2000s to the 2010s. Like the 2000s was when I started, probably like around high school, and the mid 2000s was when I kind of started. That was kind of high school, college, when I was like sitting down with people and like learning like games and stuff. And then like into the 2010s is when I was like an adult and did a thing of like, hey, now I can do, like, now I know this well enough to do this on like a professional-ish level.
So we are just at the hour mark here.
Yes.
It's that time. Final thoughts before we head on out?
No, this is great. This was a delight.
I agree. I had a blast having you on. Great to have you back again in the future sometime. Yeah. And until next time, everyone, stay nerdy.
Bye, everybody.